All right, guys, so let's get started. So first of all, let me thank you all for taking the time out and attending this webinar. So this webinar is all about design review using a PDF program called Bluebeam Revu. So just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Deepak Mani. I'm the BIM/manufacturing product manager at Cat Group Australia. Been with the company for about 9 years now. I'm a qualified mechanical engineer with about 17 years of experience in the industry. I'm also a guest lecturer at University of New South Wales and University of Technology, Sydney. Have written a few books, so people who know me already would have seen some of my books. All right, so getting straight into the program, we've got a few things to cover today. So getting into first what actually is Bluebeam Revu. Now, before I talk about what Bluebeam Revu is, I'm going to actually launch a poll. You'll have about 30 seconds to answer the question. There are two questions, so we'll start with the first one. So I've launched a poll. You'll probably be able to see it on your screen. And the question is, how do you perform design review in your company right now? So once you've filled in the answers, I'll be able to get you the results. All right, so I'm about to close the poll. All right, so I'm going to close the poll now. Okay, so to let you guys know about the result, about 43% people are saying that they are still doing paper markups. 50% of you are saying that you use PDF files, and 7% are saying that you use DWF files. I'm glad nobody take that they are smart and they don't need design review, because I reckon everyone needs design review. All right, just a second question. It should be on your screens now. So the question is, have you heard about Bluebeam Revu? So I'm going to close it in about 4 minutes, or 4 seconds, sorry. Okay, fantastic. So again, to give you a result, 88% of you guys have said that you know or you've heard of Bluebeam Revu, which is great. So 12% who actually haven't. Bluebeam is a software. Basically, it's a simple PDF solution for working professionals like you and me. The program was originally designed for aeronautic and AC industry. It's actually the flagship program for the Bluebeam company is a program called Revu. Revu is a PDF creation, editing, and markup tool, but it also provides what we call as a collaboration capabilities. Now, collaboration capability is a really important term here, because that's what we're going to do a little bit later in this webinar. So I sent some of you guys an email if you want to participate in the live PDF review. So we're going to talk about that in detail. But the program basically has 5 core functionalities, which is today's agenda as well. It's got intuitive interface, very similar to our CAD interface, so we can easily switch between a CAD program to this Bluebeam Revu program for design review. Easy to use and simple markups, but still really smart. But the main thing that I want to touch on today is what we call as Tool Chest. Tool Chest is a trademark program by Bluebeam, where it basically stores your customized tools that you can then share with the other members of your team in your company or somewhere outside. Advanced markup list, and that's the whole idea of this webinar today, to add accountability to the design review process. So after we have finished the design review process, we want to generate a report and see exactly who did what and that kind of stuff. And then finally, real-time collaboration with Bluebeam Studio. So let's get straight into the software. So this is the Bluebeam Revu interface. Bluebeam actually comes in 3 different flavors. This interface of most of those flavors are looks exactly the same. I'm using the Bluebeam CAD version currently here. So pretty much similar to our normal design program. Up the top, we've got this these ribbon tabs. So we've got the File ribbon tab, we've got the Edit ribbon tab. view ribbon tab, and so on. Underneath these ribbon tabs, we've got these things called ribbon panels or command flyouts. So if I, for example, go to the view ribbon tab, I can see all these different view related commands. If I go to the markup ribbon tab, I can see all these markup related commands. These commands also have flyouts, so you can click on these flyouts to activate a command that you want. But the best part is most of these commands actually have shortcut keys associated with it. So if you don't like burning your calories and going all the way up there to activate the command, you can just type in T for the text box command, Q for callout, and so on. So most of these commands that you would see in Bluebeam Revu, they also have keyboard shortcuts associated with them. So it makes it really easy for us to activate a command. Then on the left and bottom and the right side of the screens, you'll also find these slide out panels or panel bars. We can slide these out or in depending on what we are doing. These are really handy panels. We're going to touch on them also. The screen that you see here would depend on what we call as our profiles. The concept of profile is very similar to the concept of workspaces in AutoCAD, if you have ever used AutoCAD. So down the bottom, I've got my profiles button. Currently, I'm in the design review profile. If I, for example, go to the construction profile, it adds some toolbars here, opens this left panel bar, shows me some of these tools. And as you can see, some more toolbars get added onto the right of the screen. Similarly, if I go to, for example, the oil and gas profile, it shows me some more toolbars here and on the right and left and so on. You can also go and create your own profile by simply clicking on this little profile button on the lower right corner. You should be able to see my cursor there. When I click on it, I can go and add a new profile as well. The best part is these profiles can also be imported and exported from one computer to the other. For this webinar, I'm going to use the design review profile. One of the best things that I really like about this particular program is this thing on the top left called file access. Now, file access by default was hidden inside this left panel. I can slide it out by clicking on this button that you'll be able to see on my screen, or I can click on this little flyout and get the file access from there as well. What file access basically does is it provides you your recently used files. So these are all my recently used files, which a lot of programs do, so nothing fancy about that. But what's really cool about this is where you've got this Explorer option, you can explore to a folder and then pin that folder. So for example, there's a folder in which you regularly keep posting PDF files for your current project. So you can pin that folder onto this area here. As a result, any file that gets added to that folder, you'll have direct access to those. And the best part is those pinned folders would also be available in this recent files section. So you can see that these are the pinned folders, and I also have some pinned files here. So pinned files, again, are the files that I'm regularly using. So again, some really cool time-saving techniques. The other thing that I really am impressed with this program is the way the navigation works. Some of the other PDF programs that I've used, the navigation actually works like a Word document, wherein you scroll up and down and it scrolls the page up and down. In case of Bluebeam Revu, if it automatically figures, or if it figures out that it's a large size sheet, so for example, in this case, it's an A2 size sheet. So if it's an A1, A0, or A3 size sheet, it automatically figures out that it's a large format sheet. And then the navigation in this changes to your CAD navigation, wherein I can scroll forward to zoom in, I can scroll back to zoom out, I can press and hold the wheel button to pan, and the best part is I can simply double click my wheel button to do a zoom extends. So if I double click the wheel button, it does a zoom extends exactly like AutoCAD. So something that may not you may not find really important, but at the end of the day, these are some really cool time-saving techniques as well. All right, so now let's get into the actual markup side of it. As I said, we have got the markup tools available on the top here. We also have got this toolbar on the right that I can use to create markups. This toolbar on the right of my screen, or this panel bar or ribbon tab at the top. So if I, for example, expand the text flyout, we've got all these different text-related commands, or text box, callout, typewriter, node, and flag, and so on. The process of writing a text is really simple. Let's say I want to add a text somewhere here. I'm going to drag a box. This file is to be used for design review today. Just click anywhere outside, and that's your text box. You would notice that the text actually is really small, and the box associated with this is pretty large. So at any point of time, you can right click on this and you can go and say auto size text box. So it automatically fits the text box to match the text size. You can also resize it by dragging the grip points. But every item that you create in Revu also has properties associated with it. So if you look at the right side in this properties window here, you can see that it's now showing me that I'm the author, showing me the subject. Now, subject is really important. So just remember this. I'm going to come back to this a little bit later. Shows me what text I've added, assigns the color to it. Now, in a lot of cases, you would have different consultants assign different colors. So if I'm a structural consultant, I'm assigned, let's say, blue color. So we know that the markup that is created in blue color is from the structural consultant. Similarly, HVAC, hydraulics, architecture, whatever you want, you can assign different colors. So in my case, I want to assign a color to this particular text. I'm going to click on this, and I want to change it to blue color. So press escape. I'll just go in here. So text color at the bottom here. So I'm going to assign blue color to it. I can also go and define, let's say I want to put a rectangle around it. So put a rectangle around it as well. That's my text. Similarly, I can go and add pens and highlighters. So a lot of people just want to highlight certain things by simply putting highlighters in there. Similarly, lines. So you can create lines or arrows or arcs or polyline. So polyline is one of my favorites. I can just quickly show you how to create polyline. And as soon as I click close to this, it automatically closes the polyline. All the information about the polyline, the color, the fill color, if I want to assign a fill color to the polyline, it does that as well. Going into shapes, we can create all these different types of shapes. So let's say I want to create a polygonal shape around certain area. So I can go and simply create a polygonal shape just by dragging a box around it. And then I can use this shape to do whatever I want. At any point of time, you can right click on any of these edges, and you can also go and add a control point. So if I go and add a control point, I can now drag it somewhere here. These polygonal shapes can also be assigned colors. So I can go and change the color to it. I can assign a hatch pattern. So let's say I'm going to change this to blue color. I also want to assign a light blue fill color. I'll make sure it is highlighted, and change the opacity to, let's say, 40%. As I said, I can also go and assign a hatch pattern to it if required, just by simply clicking on these hatch pattern options here. But one of my favorite tools in the shape is this thing called Cloud Plus. K is the shortcut key for that. About 90 to 95% reviews or markups that I create are basically Cloud Plus. What Cloud Plus does is it lets me create a Rev Cloud. So I can create a little Rev Cloud here and also add a text associated with this. So this column needs to be changed as per details. So what it's done is it's created this little cloud here. It's added text with that and so on. Again, cloud appearance. Also, I want it to be blue color. I want a color fill of this highlight and with the opacity of, let's say, 40%. Same thing with the arrow and the leader lines. I want them to be blue color, and I want the text to be blue color as well. So I'm going to change this to blue. I want a rectangle around that as well. And again, if I want, I can create a fill color inside that as well. But I'm pretty happy with this right now. So what it's basically doing is it's creating this little Rev Cloud along with the leader and the text, and that's what this Cloud Plus tool does. As I said, this is one of my favorite tools. What we can also do is, let's say I'll create another Cloud Plus here. So this column needs to be updated based on, let's say, the last clash meeting or coordination meeting or whatever we want to call it. But notice that I have to go back in here and change the color to this, assign a fill color, maybe turn highlight on as well, change this as well to bluish color, and same thing with this one. Let's put a rectangle around it as well. So let's say in the last Clash meeting, we created some Clash viewpoints which we have exported as images that I want to associate here. So for that, I can also go and add images. So I'll go and say add an image. It says what's the image you want to add. So I'm going to pick my Clash image. That's I'm going to place it from here to somewhere here. And then I can go and add a little arrow saying that this is what I'm talking about. Change the color of the arrow to blue. So we can not only just add these text and clouds and so on, we can also insert images with this particular file. So these are some of these different markup tools that we've got available. We also can add hyperlinks, we can add attachments, but the main thing is we can also go and add stamps. So let's say whether this is approved or not, you can add approved stamps. You can also go and add a date and time stamp. Main thing is you can also go and create your own custom stamps if required. This again is something that some of the other design review programs are not able to do, but in this case you can create your own custom stamps as well. The next thing that I want to do is I want to do a quick distance measure about a few things. One of the things with the PDF files is that we can't be sure whether the files are to the right scale or not. Now obviously this one is in imperial format, so it's going to show us the values in imperial. We can show in metric as well, but let's stick with imperial for the time being because that way it's easier for us to understand what's going on. So I want to measure certain distances here to see what those distances are. The problem is I don't know whether the PDF was printed to the scale or not, whether it's without or any scale. So this is where under the measure ribbon tab, we've got this really smart tool called Calibrate. What this tool does is it actually lets me go and pick any 2 points on my screen in my drawing sheet, and I can say, right, this value actually is equal to this value on the real drawing. So all you need to do is figure out one of those known dimensions and then measure it and say, all right, this dimension actually equates to this value. And that's what I'm going to do here. It says select 2 points. I'm going to go and say, all right. So if I move the cursor here, I'm not sure whether I'm picking the right point or not. So I'll go and pick this one to this one here. And it says, all right, what should this value equate to in the actual measurement? So it's by default taken it as this value. You could also change it to meters or millimeters or centimeters or whatever it is and specify the value here. So in my case, it's actually calibrated pretty good. And now as soon as I click OK, it straight away takes me to the measurement tool. And I want to measure, let's say, the distance between this point to this point. Now, as soon as I measure the distance, it shows me the value, which is great. But the problem is this is not how I want my measurement to look like. It's an architectural drawing. I want my measurement to have architectural text. I want it to be a different color and so on. So for that, again, I can go to the properties of this. So this is the properties window. I'm going to change the color to blue color and also the text color to blue. And I don't want these arrowheads. I want them to be architectural text. The problem with this architectural text is that this actually is pretty large size compared to the rest of the architectural text. So I can go in here if I just drag it out a bit. So under this little list here, I can also go and change the size. I'm going to make it 50% and make this 50% as well. So this is how I want my dimensions to look like. Now, you would have noticed that the problem that I'm facing is for every single tool or markup that I'm adding, I have to customize it to meet my requirements. So this area measurement, this rev cloud, these distance measurements and so on, I have to customize these. In Bluebeam or design review process using Bluebeam Revu, we actually do not need to do that. What happens is if I expand this left palette now and go into this thing called tool chest. So tool chest is what I was talking about earlier. It's a trademark thing by Bluebeam. It basically provides you a number of different tools, excuse me, depending on which profile you are in. Currently, I'm in the design review profile. So it shows you my tools. Then it also shows you the architect review. It also shows you the contractor review, engineers review, and so on. And there's something called recent tools. Recent tools basically shows you all the tools that you invoked in the recent past. So if I scroll in here, it shows me the additional tools as well that I activated. What we can do with these recent tools is we can add them into our own tool set. these tool sets actually can be customized and then exported and imported or shared with others as well. Once you close the design review session using Bluebeam Revu, the recent tools actually would blank out again and would go back to 0 or blank. So what we can do is we can create our own tool set by simply clicking on this little gear icon in here and go and say add, and just add a new tool set, and which is what I've done. You can also go and say that this tool set is available in all the profiles. So if I select this thing called show in all profiles, irrespective of what profile I pick from here, my tool set would be available in that profile. So I'm going to go and say OK. And all I need to do now is the tools that I've added or the markups that I've added after I've customized them, I can add them into my tool set. The process is really simple. I can click on that markup or object that I've added, and I can go and say add to tool chest, and I can pick my tool chest. There you go. Similarly, if there's anything else I've customized, so I've customized this dimension, right click, add to tool chest, and I can add to tool chest here. Alternatively, you can go to your properties window, and down the bottom, you can go and say add to my tools. So all this now gets added to my tools here. And if I need to share it with someone, all I need to do is click on this little icon here and then click on export. Before I'm able to export, it asks me to save this. So let me save this first. And then I can go and say export. I can export this as a BTX format file, put it in a shared directory for others to use as well. Or I can actually just email it to anyone I need to. So basically, the whole concept is, as a project manager, I can create all these different tool sets for different consultants so that they are actually using these markups that I have recommended for them with the right color for the design review process. Again, as I said, the concept is by just looking at one of these markups, I'm able to see where it's coming from. Just a sec, there's a question by someone. Can you create a quick style for your cloud? Yes, exactly. That's so, Franz. I'm glad you asked this question because that's exactly what I'm showing right now. All right. So, so what I've done is I've actually added all these tools here. Now, when the tools are added here, they are displayed in two different modes. There's what we call as a drawing mode and a properties mode. So the drawing mode is where when you click on any of these objects, it gets just placed as is wherever you want on the screen. That's called a drawing mode. Now, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to just pick points wherever I want and then add my own object. So similarly, if I click on this Rev Cloud here, I want to be able to just, instead of just dragging and dropping, I should be able to resize it as well. So you can double click on any of these command buttons. Once you double click those, it then goes into what we call as properties mode. So by going into properties mode, I can actually go and create a new box, but it will have the same properties that we defined for the tools that I saved. Same thing with the dimension here. If I just click, it places the dimension as is. I don't want that. So I'm going to double click on this, and now it becomes an actual dimension that I can place. And that dimension will be customized based on what I did with my tool. And doing the same thing with the Rev Cloud as well. So I'm going to go and use this Rev Cloud tool, create a new Rev Cloud here. But as you could see, it is now customized based on what I saved. So this is a new customized Cloud Plus. So the whole concept is these tools that we often use can be easily saved in these tool sets, and these tool sets can automatically or easily be exported as well. So as I mentioned, some of the companies that we know, that's exactly what they have done. For different engineers, they have created their own tool sets with own customized colors, and all they do is send those tool sets to those engineers. So when they're doing the markups, they use their own customized tools. That way, it's really easy for them to understand who's doing what in the process. So this is some of the tools that are available in the markup and the measure window. Going into the area, I can also perform an area measurement. So let's say in my case, I want to do an area measurement around this. So area starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you could see, I'm actually picking certain points to go around an arc. Here, 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 and here. I'll press enter. Shows me this area. Now, you would say that that's not the accurate area because it's just going across this curve. It's not really the right area. So what I can do in this case is if I click on this little line segment here, I can convert this into an arc. By converting that into an arc, I'm now able to just use these handles to take it around that point. I could do the same thing with this one as well, convert into an arc, and then use these handles. So create a lot more accurate measurement. Again, once I've customized this area tool, I've assigned the right color and so on, I can then add that into my tool set. So that way next time when I'm creating this area measurement, it's got the right color, it's got the right fill information, etc. But this particular arc option, I haven't seen it in any of the CAD or PDF programs that lets you do a document design review. I find it really handy to convert this into an arc. We can also, as I mentioned earlier, or as I showed you earlier, we can also add additional control points if it's not going through the right objects. So this is some of these design review tools. A lot of these other tools are pretty simple to use as well. But moving forward, the next thing that I want to show you is what we call as our markup list. So you can see here that every single markup that I've added to this particular file is added as this markup list here. The whole idea is at any point of time, I can look at this list and see what has been going on in this particular design review process. There's an additional question. Can you make a global update to those tiles? France, unfortunately at this stage, I'm not aware of any way of doing that. However, I know that this is something that Bluebeam is looking into. But I'm glad you asked this question. That I'll raise this with them one more time. Okay, so if you look at this, by default, all these markups have been sorted based on the subject. You can also sort them based on the date. You can sort them based on color. You can sort them based on comments and so on. In case of author, because I'm the only one adding comments to this, so that's only my name listed here. But what we can do in this Bluebeam Revu is we can also import markups from other files. So let's say last week I was not in the office and another version of this file was used for markup. What I want to do is I want to be able to get the markup from that file so that we have got one single file with all the markups in a single location. So for that we've got this option called import. What this does is it lets me select the file that had the markup in it. So I'm going to go in here, webinars, Bluebeam, and this is the markup, let's say, that was used last week for adding, or this is the file that was used for adding markups and so on. I'm going to double click on this. So when I double click on this, what it does is it actually brings in all the markups from that file also into this file. And if I scroll down here, you can see that some of these markups were added by Mark Kelly. These are notes, so I can hide these notes. So they are smaller versions. We don't have to worry about the massive note displayed on the screen. But you can see here that some of these comments are actually now added in this file that were created by Mark Kelly as well. And they would go exactly where they were supposed to, where Mark added them. They go exactly at that same location. Obviously, provided it's the same file and the same scale and so on. So now if I want, I can also sort it based on the author. I can sort it based on the time and all these things. In addition to sorting it based on these things, we can also filter these. So we have this really smart tool called filter. If I go and say filter, I've now got this little filter option available in all of these columns. So if I say I want to filter all the Mark Kelly markups only, I can click here and Mark Kelly. So what happens is now it's filtered all these comments based on the comments that Mark added that you can see on the screen. But what it also does is at the same time, it grays out the objects that were not filtered. So any markup that I added has been grayed out here, as you could see. Similarly, if I go and say filter it based on me, so I want to see the comments that I added, and what it does is it actually grays out the markups that Mark Kelly added. So that way we can concentrate on the markups that we are after rather than displaying everything in a really busy sheet. We can also, as I said, pretty much filter it based on any of these columns. But the next thing that I want to show you is what we call as custom column. So Bluebeam Revu has given us a capability of creating our own custom columns as well. If I click on this columns list, it shows us all the available columns out of box. But if I click on this button next to columns, so this button here, it lets me create my own custom column as well. So let's say I want to create a new custom column that says RFI. I can specify what type of column it is. I'm going to go and say choice. So I can say whether it is an architecture RFI. Now, subject is key here. So I touched on subject earlier as well. If I say this is an architect RFI, I can also assign a numeric value to it if I want. Okay, I'm going to add another one. Let's say structure RFI, structure. Okay, and I'll add a third one. Let's say services. Now this one I'm going to leave as blank. So when I go OK, I've got three choices for this particular column. OK, OK. So that column is now available here. So for this particular area measurement, now I want to assign a property from that column. When I double click on it, the only option that I've got available is services RFI. And the reason for that is because that column that I created for RFI, I assigned subjects to those. So the whole concept is any markup that has got this subject will be able to see this option as well. So if I go and change the subject of this area measurement, and this needs to go to an architect, all I need to do is change this subject to architect and then enter. So now when I click on this, I can now see two options, one obviously for the architect and the other one which was blank. Same thing, if it was an electrical RFI, all I need to do is change the subject of that to electrical, and it will be able to let me select the electrical option from this list. So the whole idea is, although it's giving me quite a few options, but it's also simplifying it that only a markup that is associated with an architect or an engineer or someone will be able to assign that, that particular RFI. So this is fantastic. This is all good. But now at the end of this coordination or at the end of this design review process, I want to generate a report with everything that was done in this. So for that, we have got this summary option. It lets me create all these different types of summaries. I can create a CSV file. I can create an XML file. I can also create a PDF summary or just simply print it. The one that I actually prefer is called PDF summary. The reason I prefer this is because this type of summary actually can be appended in the current PDF file. And it not only appends this, it also gives me the option of creating hyperlinks. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to append the summary into this file, and I'm going to create hyperlinks. And when I go and say OK, it now goes through the process of creating the summary report and then appending that to this current PDF file that we use for design review. And if I display this left panel, I'm going to display these here. Let me bring it down a bit. So you could see that this was my original file. Let me get this down a bit as well. So this was my original file, and this is my summary report. If I zoom into a particular area of the summary report, it actually tells me where I am in this report here. And as I said, it not only just creates this summary report, it also creates hyperlinks. So when I click on this, it straight away takes me to that exact area on the original sheet where we added this particular markup. So it not only just creates these reports, it creates these really smart hyperlinks as well. So if I go to this sheet here, I'm going to zoom, and I'll say I know where it is. So let's go to something else. So click on this one here, and it takes me to that particular location in the actual drawing. So it also shows me where am I in that particular drawing. There's another question. Instead of graying out, can you make a filtered item disappear? I will look into that call. I'll quickly make a note of this, and I'll let you know whether we are able to do that or not. Okay, so just going back into the last sheet. Okay, so I am going to go into this section here, and it straight away takes me to that particular section on my drawing sheet. So as I mentioned, by creating this summary, it's not only doing this report, it also is creating this live hyperlinks with these files, which again is a really, really smart tool. So this is the core functionality of the design review process using Bluebeam Revu. As you could see, there's a lot more things, but I have to be careful about everybody's time because there is one last thing that I want to show you in this webinar, which is what we call as Bluebeam Studio session. Bluebeam Studio can be activated by this button here, or it can be activated by simply clicking in here. So what exactly is Bluebeam Studio? Bluebeam Studio actually is a combination of a cloud storage location and an online collaboration process. So there are two things in Bluebeam Studio. There's what we call as a studio session, and there's what we call a studio project. So studio project is more like your online storage or online repository of your documents. It comes with Amazon Cloud Storage. At this stage, it is unlimited cloud storage that you've got available. All we do is we go and create a new project. Once you have created a new project, you can just go and start creating folders or start adding documents into that particular project. So for example, if I go into this, I want to, let's say, add a new file or something. So I can simply go into this and add a new file to that particular folder. So in my case, I've already got some files added. Let me close this current file. So this, at this stage, I'm talking about Studio Project, which is my online repository. For any project, I can also go and add people that I want to share that project with. So the whole idea is you can go and add, let's say you've got different people working in your team and you don't want them to worry about where are the files saved and so on. All you need to do is create a new studio project, which you get as part of your Bluebeam Revu license. So all Bluebeam Revu licenses come with online storage option, which is your Bluebeam Studio project. You can go and add as many users as you want. So all you need to do is click on this and add users. You can also use other means of adding users using the groups and that kind of stuff. You can control what permission you want to give to these users. You can also control folder permission. So you want only the the electrical engineers to only look at the electrical folder, the structural people to only look at the structural folder. Similarly, the HVAC people to look only at the structural, the HVAC file or folder. You can set up the folder permission for these projects as well. So it's like a really lightweight document management program as well. It also gives you what we call as the check-in, check-out functionality. So let's say in my case, I want to use one of these files right now. All I need to do is right-click on this file and check out. Because currently it is sitting at a cloud location, I can't just simply start open it and start working on it. What I need to do is check out. When I click check out, it then downloads a local copy of this, as you could see here. Now that local copy, I can simply double-click on it, and it opens that local copy. I can start making the design review or start adding markups to this. I'm going to use my tool chest to add certain markups. This needs to be changed, and whatever it is, so I'll add a couple of more markups here. Change the number of steps. Once I've made these changes, I'm going to save this file. Then I can close this file, and when I close this file, it's now asking me what I want to do with the local copy. Do I want to undo checkout? If I undo checkout, it will remove all the markups that I've added, or I'm going to go and say check-in. So I'll add some comments here. Added markups for the column and the pool. Save and check in. So what it does is it now checks the file back into my online repository, and once it's done that, it actually doesn't show me that tick mark there anymore. At any point of time, I can right click on this and I can look at the revision history. So it shows me all the revision history. So when was it added, if it was changed, and when was it changed, and if there were some comments added to this. Similarly, if I go and check this file out again, make whatever changes to it. So let's quickly add a dimension here. And I'm going to save this file. So this was the red dimension, not the blue dimension. That's why it's displaying red. Nothing went wrong with my tool chest, so just in case you guys are wondering. I'm going to close this. What do you want to do? I'm going to check this in. So added the dimension, check in. So it checks this file in with the new changes now. And if I move the cursor over this, it shows me in the preview that little dimension as well, if you guys can see there. At any point of time, as I said, I can go into the revision history. And if that was not supposed to be done, I can go into a different revision history and I can restore that as my revision. So what this would do is it will create a new revision with canceling this one here. So that's our Studio project. As I said, Studio project is more like your lightweight document management program, like your online repository where you can save the files and then you can add people to your project so that they have got access to those files as well. But the next one is what we call a Studio session. Studio session is where we can all, sitting in our comfort of our own offices, actually design review on the same PDF file. And this is the reason I actually sent you all an email just in case you are interested in participating in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and start a new Studio session. Earlier we talked about project and now I'm talking about session. So I'm going to start a new Studio session. It says what's the name of this session? I'll call it as Bluebeam Webinar Coordination. Then if I've got a file locally sitting, I can add that, or I can also add files from my Studio project. But I'll simply go and add a file. I'll probably just go in here and add this file. I can decide what are all the accesses that I want to give you guys. So I'm going to go and say OK. So it creates this new session and then also uploads the file. Now it's asking me to specify the users that I want to add to this session. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go in here and add, I think Tim was interested in this. So I'm going to add Tim. So I think that's Tim's email address. I'm also going to add myself as well. I'm also logged on to my iPad. So that is logged in as CGBeam user 5. Okay. So this way I can pretty much go and add as many people as I want. I can also go to my address book and add people from this address book here as well. To participate in this Studio session, you do not need a license of Bluebeam Revu. You can actually download the free version of Bluebeam View, which is like a free viewer to participate in this. Please join. Okay. So as soon as I click OK, there's an email sent to Tim and my iPad. I'm going to go and say OK. So let me quickly log in using my iPad. So it says what's the Studio ID. I'm going to say 152.188.326. Join. I think Tim's about to join as well. So you can see that it's already started a session. It's got the document that we added to the session. It's now at the lower right corner here is showing me the entire record. So every single thing that is performed in this live Studio session would be recorded here. I'm waiting for Tim. Do users get email notification of changes? Yes, users can get email notification of the changes as well if you want. So I'm going to go and open this file here. So as you could see, currently there are 2 people logged into this session. It's myself and that's my iPad. On my computer here, I can also click on these feed button here. What feed button would do is I'm going to allow. So I think, yep, Tim's there as well. So see, as you can see, straight away tells us that Tim has joined the session as well. Now what I can do is I can click these feed button for Tim. So what this would do is it actually would now let me see what Tim is doing. So if Tim is moving, so you can see that cursor there on the screen. This is my cursor, and the other cursor that you see, the orange cursor, that's Tim's cursor. So I can track what Tim is doing in this design review process. And as he's creating these live markups, I'll be able to see those as well. But in the meantime, I'm also going to go and create my own markup. So I'll go and say markup or just use my tool chest. So you could see that Tim has actually added this markup that I could straight away see. I'm going to go and add my own markup here. So I'm going to zoom into this area. This column needs an update. So as we are doing these things, this record area is now getting populated, as you could see. I'm creating my own markup. Tim's creating his own markup. And to make sure that I'm not accidentally doing anything with Tim's markup, if I try to select this and do anything with it, I can't do it. Because it is Tim's markup, I'm not allowed to make changes to it. So similarly, if I use my iPad now to create a markup here, I'm going to go and create a little cloud. So as soon as that cloud is populated, you'll be able to see here. So that's the cloud that I've added using my iPad. So this way it could be, we are just 3 people here, but we can add up to 500 people. So we can add up to 500 people in this online coordination and design review session. And each session we can upload up to 100 PDF files. Not that you're gonna do a live design review on 100 PDF files, but you can actually practically add up to 100 PDF files in a single session. But the best part of these studio sessions is that it's not like if I go and leave this session, it'll close. That's funny, Tim. I'm not sure. So it looks like a bear or something. All right, so the funny thing is it actually shows me that Tim added an image and then Tim deleted an image as well. So if someone's trying to be cheeky, it'll tell you that as well, that someone tried to add an image and then now someone removed that image as well. So it's actually pretty cool. Now, as I said, this studio session is not only me just leaving it as a live session and when I leave, it's gonna finish the session. Studio session is more like your meeting room. So you can come in and out of that meeting room depending on your availability. So let's say we started a session at about 8 in the morning here in Sydney. Obviously that's 6 in the morning in Perth time. And unless you are Shane Brown, chances are that you are not working at 6 in the morning. So what you can do is when you actually start work, you can then join the session, irrespective of whether I'm available in that session or not. I can leave the session, but still leave the session open. So for you guys to come in and do your own review. There's also this little status area here that you can say, set your own statuses here. So if I go and say status is waiting, it straight away tells me that my status is waiting, so I'm waiting for someone. I can also go and customize this. So I can go and say waiting for coffee or something. So that way it actually customizes this, that I'm waiting for coffee. As I said, everything that I'm doing here or everything any of these 3 of us are doing, it gets saved in here. At any point of time, we can decide to leave the session or I can decide to finish the session. So what I might do is I might just quickly go and add a couple of other things. Maybe just add this area here and then this area here. So these are all the things that we have done in this session. As I said, I can leave the session open and then just myself leaving the session, or I can go and say finish the session. When I click on finish session, it now tells me you have finished the session. Now what do you want to do? Do you want to create a report with including all these people's markup? I'll say yep. I want to actually create a report with everything that all of us did. Save option, do we want to save the file or do you want to override the existing file? So I can go and say override the existing file. So that way we are overriding the existing file, or as I said, I can save a local copy as well. Do you want to generate the report? I'll say yep, we want to generate the report, and I can go into setting and I can decide what type of report I want. Again, I can create a record summary. I can go and say PDF package report or a combined file report. Again, in my case, I prefer creating a PDF package report because it packages everything into one single file. Completed the design review at 1:49 p.m. So when I click OK, all the columns that it's going to include, all the attendee list, etc., I'm going to go and say OK. It now goes and creates this report for me. and closes the session already exists. So I might have to go and create a different report. So finish session, might have to just save it somewhere on my desktop. Settings, PDF package report. Okay. In the output directory. So let me save this. Finish session. That's because the file's already in this folder. So I'm going to override this file, or I can save it in a different directory if I want. Let's say new folder, select folder, make sure I'm creating a PDF report and sitting in my desktop. There you go. So what it's done is it's actually created the PDF report, and it's telling me the folder where it's saved. And when I click on this report PDF file, it opens that PDF file and shows me everything that was done in that studio session. And it's not only just everything that was done in the session, it also is a live link. So I can go into this live link here and just click on it. It straight away takes me to that particular location in my PDF file that I've saved locally. Similarly, if I go to what Tim did, just click on it, and it takes me to the location where Tim added his markup. Similarly, if I see what was done by CGBeam user 1. So when I go in here, it now takes me to that particular location where the markup was added by CGBeam user 1, or which was my iPad. So the whole idea is we are performing a live design review session using our cloud services, but also generating a report that is live linked with the file that I saved locally. So the whole concept, as I mentioned, is to get the other people of the team participated in this design review process without we worrying about whether the person has received the file, whether they are available, they are not available, and so on. So we can leave the session open and they can perform their design review based on their availability, and then we can finally generate the reports. So we are pretty much exactly on time. So we have covered quite a few things, and that's all I wanted to cover in this particular session. So just to summarize, we looked at the interface of Bluebeam. We looked at how easy it is to navigate using the zoom and pan tools using our wheel mouse button. We looked at markups, so we create text and pen line markups and shapes and images. And as I said, my favorite was the Cloud Plus tool. We looked at measurement and calibrating the sheet first, then adding length and area measurements, customizing those measurements, saving them into our tool chest, and then exporting tool chests for other people in our team to use as well. Then we also looked at markup list, where we can filter the markup list and then also generate reports based on everything that was done in that on that particular PDF file for design review, which creates a live link as well. And then finally, we looked at the Bluebeam Studio, where we looked at Studio Projects, which is our lightweight document management program or online repository of our documents that we can share with other members of our team. And then we looked at the studio session. So I'm going to open this for questions and answers now. All you need to do is use the chat window in your GoToMeeting ribbon on the right and ask questions. All right. So the question that I've got is, and this is from France, is there a link to the added image before it was deleted? Now, France, there is no link to the added image because it was deleted and it wasn't embedded inside that PDF, so there's no live link. Can you show us how to overlay drawings? Oh yeah, absolutely, sorry, my mistake. That was one of the things that I wanted to show you that I kind of missed before we were running out of time. So there's a really, really smart option available inside Bluebeam Revu, which is called Compare Drawings. Let me close this drawing. Let me close all these drawings. So let's say in my case, if I go to my folder, I've got version A of this PDF file. The version A file looks something like this. Now, I've also been sent version C of the same file. I want to find out what are the changes that are made in version A and version C of this file. So if I go into my document option here, under comparison, there are two things I can do. I can compare document or I can overlay pages. So what compare document does is, which is my favorite, if I say compare document, it currently has picked the current file and it says what file do you want to compare it with. I'm going to go in here, webinars, Bluebeam, compare documents, and I'm going to pick version C. If it's not the same sheet size and so on, we can also define points to specify a similar point on the two sheets. We are going to do a split screen of this. So after comparing this, what it's going to do is it's actually going to rev cloud the changes. So wherever it finds the changes, it's going to rev cloud them. It's going to split the screen into two, showing me the two sheets as well. And it's also going to turn on this button here called sync. What sync would do is it would then, as I move on one of the sheets, it actually moves on the other sheet as well. So I'll go and say, okay. There you go. What it's done is it's now gone in, and in my Rev C file, it's gone in and it's rev clouded everything that was different from my Rev A file. It's also turned the sync button on. So what I'm going to do is if I zoom into this, as you could see, it automatically zooms into this file as well. So it's zooming into this file and it's telling me, first of all, that these are the changes. So if I just pan it somewhere here, you can see that these are the changes that it's put the rev clouds on. Similarly, again, these were the changes that were not here in this file, and that's why it's put the rev clouds on. So this is a really, really smart tool. I actually haven't seen any program that can actually put rev clouds on the changes on a PDF file. Similarly, if I zoom out, there are more changes in here. If I zoom into this area, I can, and as you could see, I'm just zooming into one file, and then the other file is automatically updating because of this sync option. So zoom into this, and I can see that there are changes between this and this file here. So this area is different as well. Similarly, going out, I can see that there was a door here, which is not available here. So that's why it's rev clouded that as well. And going in this area, again, you can see all these changes here that were not in this particular file. And then finally, this particular area is different as well from that file. So what it's done is it's rev clouded all these changes. That is one way of doing it. There's another way of doing it, which is what we call as overlay. So going back into my document comparison, if I go and say overlay pages, I'll click on it, pick this file. So it's telling me that the appearance is going to be displayed in green color. It's going to add this layer and so on. I'm going to go and say OK. And then again, if required, I could have aligned the points as well. But if I just simply click OK, it now overlays the two files. So I'm going to display my layers panel as well. It has overlaid the two files now, where one file is displayed in green and one file is displayed in red. And the changes that are in that particular file are also highlighted. So if I turn off the green file, I only want to look at the red file, I can see that here. But you can clearly see that these are the changes between the green file, this is the original one, and the red one here. Similarly, in this area, it straight away marks up all the changes. So these are the two ways of doing a document comparison. In my case, as I mentioned, I prefer the compare document that rev clouds it, so I can sync the two sheets on two different windows, and I can straight away have a look at what those changes are. Sometimes with the green and red options, it's a bit hard to see what's going on. Does all the same markup features and Studio work on the Bluebeam 3D PDFs as well? Yeah, Shane, so most of these features would also work on 3D PDF. If I actually go and open a 3D PDF, so this now, as you could see, is a 3D PDF file. I can spin the model around, I can do all these things, and if I go into markup, so let's say zoom into this area here, and let's say I want to do a cloud and assign a color. So obviously it's based on the color that we customized, but I could change it to a different color and a different fill color as well. And let's say this is, so we can see that we can now add these markups here. Studio Session also works well with 3D PDFs. It actually is pretty cool. Can you leave the original document in black so the overlays only colored different, easier to read? So when we did the overlay, there were options of displaying how we want the objects to be displayed. So there was an option of changing one to green and the other one to red. So I'm pretty sure we should be able to do that here. So under our overlay settings, so if I go modify, I can change this to whatever color I want, and the original one that I have, I can change this to let's say black color or something, so it's easier for us to use. So I think Rev A was our original file, and the overlay PDF was assigned as red color. But if I leave this as black by simply changing the color, so if I go OK, now the original file is displayed in black and the changes are displayed in red. But as I said, personally, I prefer having the Rev clouds rather than this, because it still is a lot of information on the file. Although you can turn off any of these files if you don't want to have a look at them. All right, guys, any more questions? Okay, so since there are no more questions coming, I might, oh, there's one more. No, all good. So fantastic. So I really appreciate your time. So we are pretty much exactly on time. Thanks for attending this session. This session was also recorded. So if any of your colleagues would like to revisit what we discussed in this session, or if you would like to revisit, please shoot me an email. I'll be by tomorrow. The recording would be ready because it takes time to get uploaded. Sorry, Carl, can Bluebeam create 3D PDFs? Yes, definitely it can create 3D PDFs. In fact, this is what I showed you just now. It can create 3D PDFs. That was a 3D PDF coming from Advanced Steel. So when you get Bluebeam Revu CAD version, it also gets you the ribbon tab or the tools created inside programs like Revit and Navisworks and AutoCAD-based programs, and you can create 3D PDFs directly from there. All right, so I will probably close the session now. Thanks again. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate that. And can you overlay 3D PDF and compare the differences? Shane, I actually haven't tried with the 3D PDF. I will have to check that because my concern is when you spin the model around in one 3D PDF, whether it's going to sync to the other one as well. I will test that and get back to you. So, all right, guys, so thanks for your time. And if you need the recording, please shoot me an email. Cheers.